All right, let's give it a moment. Hello. Thank you if you're watching the replay. I'm trying to keep it in my mind to talk to those wonderful people who are watching the replay. Hello, thank you.
It's so weird to talk to people in the future, even though we do that all the time as booktubers, but like
it feels different when you're like recording it, but like for the live, I'm always like in the moment, and I'm like, I watch other people's, I'm like, oh, they're so nice. They thought of other people.
So considerate.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
Me too. I hope y'all angry.
Sarah, I think I just saw you in Alan's live chat.
Live hopping. Whoop. Party.
A lot of quality lives today. Yay.
Hey. Oh, hi. Howdy. Hello.
Hi, howdy, hello. They literally just did your...
Yeah.
They literally went, hey, hi, howdy, hello in a row. It is 3 different people.
I may have to change that. Welcome. Yes. Brown nipples are supreme. Oh, you make my day every time you appear. Hello. Yay. Hi. Yep. Having a fun live day.
Well, Alan's celebrating 7K, so it was fun. Him and his wife are just chatting.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Yay.
Yeah, this.
It throws me that the paperback's red and the audiobook is yellow. I know that's not important.
Because in the hardcover, also yellow, which I'm glad this is red because I didn't love the yellow. So
I mean, they're both very look at me colors, so either can work. I'm thrown that they don't match.
It's an interesting cover. Just
does it make you think of like a light bulb? I don't know. It's a circle, obviously, but I like think of light bulbs maybe because of the yellow cover.
It's a balloon.
Is it a balloon?
I think like.
Oh, it is a balloon.
Yeah, I thought it was like a light orb kind of thing one time, and then I was like, and then I got it, and I was like, oh, it's a balloon. Is it like because they're airheads or something?
I mean, I don't think the metaphor is that deep.
Hey, howdy from Texas. What kind of mug cake? I want some.
Ooh, I hope it's like chocolate. I love the chocolate ones.
Do you make one from scratch or just like one you buy?
I don't do it often, so when I do, it's very lazy mode. I don't know what that means.
Oh. No, you have the right book.
No, right? It's like I got very used to the yellow cover.
Yeah, it is. It should. There are some, like, at least it's the same like design. They just change the color because sometimes like the paperback is completely. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
I wonder why they did it though, because obviously that's just someone in marketing going, well, we had yellow for this. We should switch it to red. And they had to, at a meeting at some point, say why.
Like code red. Yeah, it does have an extra forward sense for the paperback that the hardcover doesn't have. So
was the forward wasn't in the audio, right? Because I don't think I listened to that.
No, I don't think so.
It had an intro for the audio, but I don't remember a forward. There was an orange cover?
What? Maybe it was like a UK one or something?
I mean, they're all, I mean, red and yellow particularly are very look at me colors, which I think also with the title makes sense.
Very grabbing. Yes. So everyone who's in the chat, did you read it? Are you currently reading it or plan to read it? Okay, the UK is orange and the forward was not in the audio. Okay. Yeah, the forward was good.
So like, does that mean that orange is a more abrasive color for people in the UK based off marketing people? Because I think that's the goal, right? It's like red is like emotion for all species.
Yeah, maybe. Is that like your attention grabber there in the UK?
Yeah. I don't know.
But I reread this and cracked. I know, well, it's not the spine, but like a paperback, because I was just like having to put it back. Okay.
Oh, you fold their pages? Oh.
Like this?
No.
Only in like a nonfiction, something like a regular book. I don't do that. Like a fiction, but this, yep.
I don't actually judge. It's just not. It's like I don't have many book pet peeves, but like that's one where I feel pain. I don't mind breaking the spine. That one doesn't bother me.
I feel like my light is too bright. What is going on here? Let me turn this down. I don't like this light's abrasive. Ooh, warm glow. Okay. Plan to read it. Finished. Love that. Audio. I did audio and physical. Did you? You did the audio? Read it last week. Ooh, okay. 2 times. Halfway through. Yes. Yes, Christine. Oh, great. We're here to rage. This is a collective rage party. Yay.
Yeah. This book's all about rage catharsis, if that's such a thing.
Yes. Oh, finished it this morning. Amen.
Nice.
Chapter 5. Thank you for joining.
I mean, that's fair.
I think you will want to read it after you hear our thoughts. No, you can get to it. There's time. Nice. Let's finish. Boom. I love this. Ooh, I liked Invisible Woman. Pretty mediocre. Yeah, have you read her other book?
No,
I haven't either.
because that
Hi,
one's
Mara.
So you want to talk about race? But hi, Mara.
Yeah. Yes. Listen. Yes.
Yeah, I listened. I liked listening to it a lot. I mean, I like listening to nonfiction in general.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hey, we are here to rage together. Okay. So quick before we talk about get into our raging. So for March, the book clear winner. I mean, she had no competitors. Is Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall, which has been a very popular one since it came out, 2020?
Oh,
Yeah.
Don't ask me when nonfiction books come out. Don't
Yes,
do that.
2020. I know
You have a paperback, so it's probably 2020.
Yeah. God, I love a paperback. So this will be March's read. But then, so if you're in the Discord, you'll see that, maybe I'm not the most organized person when it comes to the choices. And we had a lot. So I was talking to Angela. And so going forward, we were thinking of coming up with certain like themes or topics and then having everyone vote on those. And then we can come up with books. Like, I don't know, a couple, 5, maybe 4.
I think we were thinking of like after we vote on the theme, Jess and I pick 5 to 7 or some amount of books, and then everyone votes on that collection.
Yes. So that'll be in the Discord. You'll see. And I guess I'll have to do it on Instagram too. But this was already, I had put it on my TBR and I was like, oh, we hadn't even voted. And look at me. Look at me. I'm prophetic.
I'm really excited. The audiobook's only 7 hours for that one. I just got it from the library because I'm like, oh, that's the one. Need to go get.
Look at this. What are these sizes? Okay. These are both US paperbacks. This is upsetting to me.
They're different publishers, right?
Yes, but
I'm just letting you know.
I just want one size, Angela.
My you know how some people shelve their books by author or favorites or genre? Mine is by publisher because that's where the books all are the same height. Yay. I'm excited to read it. I've heard only good things about it ever since it's been around.
Hey. Ooh, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I'm meaning to get to, but it's just like fiction. Books keep coming out and we can only do yes. Don't we? So
Hood feminism won't make me as angry? Is that what we're implying?
Oh yeah, Mara, is that a more positive one? Do we feel happier by the end?
We should heavily pressure Mara to join us for next time since she's also read both. I think it'd be really cool to like discuss both books. Maybe I'm not.
Mara, put it on your calendar. Early April. Thank you.
This is what she gets for showing up to hang out.
Hi. Ooh. Yay. Starting off the year, great. So let's see. All right, 9 minutes in. So we can overall thoughts. Did you like it? Do you rate nonfiction?
I rate them, but it's not on a similar. I mean, it's the same 5-star scale, but it's not on enjoyment, which is normally what I rate books. Like, I think when I'm picking up a nonfiction, it's not to escape or have a pleasure read or.
Yes.
So I think about it more in terms of like grading a paper, I think. And I think for this one, it was like a 4.5 out of 5 for me. I think it's just because like, for me, I really liked reading it, but I didn't gain a whole lot of new information because this is like the 3rd or 4th like intro race nonfiction that I've now read. So
true.
So if it was like the first one, it might have been a 5-star, and maybe that's not fair to the book. But
I mean, 4.5. That's great. Hi, Alexa. Okay. She said it was more just existential depression. Yay!
Mara. Yay, we will summon Mara.
Thank you. Thank you. I need to get me some more from this because I love these earrings that
They're
she
really
does.
cute.
Thank you. You kind of like the different sizes? How dare you?
Some people really like that. That's like their whole aesthetic on their shelves.
Oh yeah, look, I always be bothering Mara. I'm like, look, so I was thinking about another reason for me to run my mouth. Would you like to join me? I need to listen to it. Yes, reread 4.5. So when I first read Mediocre last year, which I read it similarly around the same time, maybe it was February. I gave it 5. Like I was like 4.5, and I just gave it 5 on Goodreads. And I just did the same thing again this time. It's really hard I usually get a 4 or 5. If I'm like, yes. Because I would say if this was my first time reading it, I might not have been as high, but I just went with the same rating I gave it when I read it the first time, even though I've read more, like race and stuff books since then. But yeah, it's like, it's hard to get below that because usually I'm like, look at me. I learned something. Great.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, like it's not the book's fault either because I don't think this was the book's goal, but I think I'm currently in a phase where like I've been going through the diagnosis, learning about the diagnosis of the problem, which is not solving the problem, it's just not taking new action. And this book didn't give me like ways to help me figure out how to be better.
You're like, okay, great. So they all suck. I'm mad. What now?
Yeah, and that wasn't the purpose of the book, and I get that, but also
yeah, it's hard. And you're like, okay, well,
like the conclusion is close. Like the conclusion is kind of a nice conclusion.
Yeah. Oh yes, Ashley. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and submit the live show for April. Yes, we need different star ratings. I like that. Preach. These are good. I'm gonna write that diagnosis rather than prognostic. Yeah. So, but yeah, overall, still rereading it was, and I always a joy. It was not a joy.
I mean, there were moments like, so I really like her voice and I liked listening to it because it's her voice saying it. And like, there are just moments where she says something and I can feel her frustration, but also her like type of humor, her like deadpan, like,
yes,
it's not always there because most of the time she's just listing facts and just being like, yeah, this world that we're in.
Yes.
But like, didn't I message you once when we were reading a section and I'm like, she just called this guy a fantastic racist and I'm dying. Like, I've never heard that adjective next to it before. I was just like,
a fantastic read. Like, all right.
Like literally another level.
Yeah. Like, what do you do to get there? Yes.
Well, then she told us, and I was like, I agree. He really committed.
Yes. It felt soothing, but also, like you said, like you could hear when she was like angry. It was still like, very like even keeled, but still like a very strongly worded, per my last email voice.
Yeah. Well, she basically says, like, I have written articles and books, and you guys keep asking me, how did we get here? And I keep telling you, and you keep not listening.
It's been forever. What are y'all asking me? Yes, I have so many quotes up in here that I'm like, I love this. So I guess, all right, we can get into. So originally I was going to do questions, but then we were going through it. She just gave us such great chapter titles that it was like, I just want to have these on display. So we can just go through these, any, things that stood out to you or questions you had in the section and talk about that. So in the intro, I know you love this, works according to design.
I literally have it on a Post-it note.
Which is, if there ever was an American slogan, works according to design, where she really just starts off talking about the history of America. And I was telling Angela how I used to be one of those people who are like, oh, the system is broken. Oh, we need to fix it. And I was like, no, this is exactly how it was created. And it's working just like they wanted it to.
And it was funny because I was telling my mom about it because I think my mom will like reading this. And I was showing her my Post-it, and she's like, "It's funny you have a Post-it like that because like that's what we say in like engineering and software development when people are upset at a program. They're like, well, that's exactly what you wanted it to do. So all of its bugs are built in by design."
Look, someone else has it on Post-it note.
We're not. Well, I just did this because Jess was going on a tirade, and I was like,
I started talking about politics, and it just. Oh, so Hood and Fit. Yeah, I think they'll tie in well together.
Yeah, I think they'll. Hopefully, they enhance each other.
Yes. Thank you. It's Andrews.
Yeah, because female flannels are never as comfortable as male flannels, and I don't know why.
I want them to be. I don't want it cropped or fitted. I want it to be.
It's not even the fit; it's the fabric thickness. Like we get cheaper fabric.
It's disgusting. He has so many, so I'm like, I'm just gonna borrow them. Thank you. Yes, the system. I mean, because she starts off, and I was watching briefly an interview she did with, I can't remember what university, but they were asking her about the title, and she's like, I mean, it's not, because they're like, it's so like, ooh, like, so, they almost made it seem like it was like salacious or something. She's like, I mean, it's the word mediocre. And she was talking about that person who tweeted years ago, like, have the confidence of a mediocre white man. And she was like, I mean, it just kind of fit with the book. So
yeah, I like it in that context. And I mean, because we were talking about this, like you could use average, which is a more neutral term. It's not necessarily a positive term, but mediocre is the negative version of average.
Oh. Yeah, because I feel like you're like, oh yeah, it's average. And you're like, mediocre. Like, that's the tone that is giving me. But because she's talking about from, the inception of America till now that they lead our government, and mediocre white men, and then white supremacy. I do like that because I feel like a lot of usually white people or people who want to pretend racism isn't real love to get offended by like when you say white supremacy, and she says, I'm not just talking about Klan members and neo-Nazis. And that's what a lot of people tend to be like, well, I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not burning crosses, or I'm not wearing this. And she said, it's that said, blatant racial terrorists, while deadly and horrifying, have never been the primary threat to people of color in America. It's more insidious than that. I'm talking about the ways our schoolrooms, politics, popular culture, boardrooms, and more all prioritize the white race over other races. Ours is a society where white culture is normalized and universalized, while cultures of color are demonized, exotified, or erased. And I'm like, yes. So cheaper fabric will make the
yeah, no, it's really, that's part of the failed design. I think another thing I did like about this nonfiction, although it is very much like also about race because we're looking at white men versus everyone else, there's also a heavy feminism thing of women versus men, and like there's a reason. They know we buy clothes more often, so they want it to be cheaper. And
you a basic true. It is like, it's mediocre. It's perfect. So
no, it's great. No, and unfortunately, I read a book that was written by a white guy that I thought was super mediocre while reading Mediocre, and I think that made my experience of that book worse because I'm like, why did this get more buzz than this other book that's better? And I know why, but I was just like, I was in a rage.
Oh, there's her name. Writer Sarah Hagee wrote that. Lord, give me the confidence of a mediocre white man. Thank you, Sarah.
I feel that whenever I send emails and I hyper stress about emails, I'm just like, imagine you're a white guy. Yeah. Would you be stressing about this sentence right now? No, your sentence would not even have a period, probably.
Yeah, I've seen on like Twitter or on TikTok, and they're like, no, write that email like a white man. Like, take out the please when you have time. Like, no, just like write it like here. Here's what you want.
Don't worry about being likable.
Oh, what book was it? That was mediocre.
Okay. All right. So Works by Design. And I like how she talked about where she got the inspiration for the book and like putting the book in its time. I think, and to some degree, like that book, the introduction was the most repetitive part for me because it really like she had to define some words and some concepts that are defined in a lot of intro race things, like the idea that white supremacy is not just the Klan. I feel like every race book has to like tread that ground because that's not common knowledge and things like that, or at least
sadly,
yeah.
For some, what you think you're like, but depending on who you are reading this book, they might be shocked. That might be their first time, like, like really thinking white supremacy is just those things and not all the other ways it affects society. But because she said, how do you keep the average white male American invested in a system that disadvantages him? You give them whiteness, you give them maleness, you give them an identity that will provide a sense of victory in good times and bad. All you need to be as successful as a white man is to be better off than women and people of color. And all you need to do to distract white men from how they are actually faring is to task them with the responsibility of ensuring that people of color and women don't take what little might be theirs. Oh, yeah. Don't we love it? To be. But yeah, I mean, obviously the introduction is really general in introducing you, but I still... Obviously, you love that works according to design. So then she goes into Cowboys and Patriots, how the West was won, which I was like...
I think it really showed me why I've never connected to Westerns, because Westerns weren't made for me. They weren't made to make me feel cool or adventurous or anything like that. It's just like about old white dudes and glory days. And
you mean that doesn't resonate with you? What?
Well, and then, like, you always kind of know that's not the truth. And then the one Western I read that was actually more realistic to it, I still just hated the genocide and stuff. Like, I just didn't like it.
Yeah, I don't think I've watched many. Or is Clint Eastwood? Is that his name? Was he the Western man? The white
He
Western?
Is a person I associate with the West, whether that's, like, supposed to be music or movies or TV. I have no clue.
I know he's old and white.
He was in a Christopher Nolan movie recently. He's 91 years old. Oh my goodness. He's 6'4". Sorry, I just Googled him. He is in a Western TV series, Rawhide.
He's 91?
Yeah.
Is his mother still alive?
If his mother is still alive.
I swore she was still alive. And that man is, oh my God. Yeah. It's very much, I think she says in the book, like they were, these things were made for them to be able to see themselves as the hero. And like, woo, we're out here. And yeah.
Well, and like even like in now how like people are trying to capture that magic of Westerns, and like I read a sci-fi last month that was looking at the Western idea of the frontier and discovery and gentrification and like people coming back from colonies to Earth and how they were excited to like be like the frontiersmen in the West because there's this fantasy about it. It's glorification.
Yes. Clint Eastwood, yeah, John Wayne, yes. Yes. They were like, you did what? He's like...
And then he killed all the buffalo and then tried to save the buffalo. And I'm just like, sir.
Make it make sense. Yeah, look, claiming to have shot 4,280 buffalo in just 18 months. God, I hate to see it.
Well, Clint and the imagery whenever historical fictions or nonfictions described what happened on the plains, I'm always just so sad. Like, I'm never surprised, but yeah.
I've never gotten into them or even like Western books, really. I guess Mistborn Era 2 is the closest.
That one's more like a detective serialized, like Western aesthetic. I would say that's a Western aesthetic, but it's not like a Western. Like, because I like Westworld, but I like Westworld in the context of like what it's discussing with them.
Yes, yeah, yeah. This lion man. I mean, he really. It's like, wow, y'all been lying since forever, huh? Embellishing. He would have been. Yes, everyone propped up would have done Buffalo. Oh. It's like, sir, you are the problem. What do you mean? Speculative Westerns.
I agree, because normally speculative Westerns, they have different themes they're focusing on. And I think it's the themes of a standard Western that don't resonate with me.
Yeah.
Just like, because I mean, she talks a lot in this section about, she doesn't use the word toxic masculinity, right? But it's like the idea that you need to be aggressive and a violent man, or like you have to have this like power and, like how that changed into when we didn't have wars to fight. That's how we got sports amped up. And
because that part, she said his Wild West show offered everything white men in search of power and glory were looking for. They were noble and brave. And then what you were saying, it said like their stories of physical dominance, like they're men.
Yeah, it had to do with biceps and surviving and conquering. And
biceps and surviving.
you're telling me that wasn't a feature?
That could be a really cute gym shirt. Biceps and surviving. But yeah, Western is not for me. And then when she went into, obviously, we were talking a lot about the Native people and.
Well, and like, I think this was the first time I think it was brought up to me in terms of history. It's like we were the ones primarily scalping. And I feel like whenever I've had bad history, it's always scalping is associated with indigenous people, them doing it, which I do think they still did. But like, it seemed like it was actually more our culture coming from Europe, bringing it in.
Weren't they getting like a lot of, or good money for them? Like
they were getting money for every scalp or something. It was atrocious.
Because the Indian problem. Yeah, there it was.
Oh yeah, and this was like, it reminded me of like what you learn about like Nixon or Reagan when they have like their problems they're trying to fix with like introducing drugs. And here it's like, oh, well, the Native Americans are with the buffalo. So get rid of the buffalo. You get rid of the problem. And I'm like, we are repetitive as hell. Like,
they're always like, don't, you need to learn history or you're doomed to repeat it. Well, y'all repeat it anyway. So.
Oh, page 22. Someone pointed out the thing I was talking about, probably before I said it. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah. The whole, like I'd always heard like the nickname Buffalo Bill and like knew roughly about, but I didn't know this is exactly how it happened because, white men out here like, ooh, let me show you. I am strong. I can kill all of these animals.
Lots of damsels in distress. And I mean, it's also, a great stage for some good old-fashioned Western propaganda. So.
The Dark Tower movie. Ooh, hey. No, I can understand.
How many gunslinger movies are there?
Are there many?
Well, I think there's one with Idris Elba, and that's Denzel Washington, so.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, maybe there is a Stephen King movie that casts 2 strong black leading men, but I don't think that exists. I don't trust.
That's way too much. Oh, hello. We're discussing this. Mediocre. Yeah. Have you read? But I mean, this was just so. Oh, what is this? Because I see it all in caps and I'm like, what is this talking about? Virile, muscular, heroic manhood. I hate it all.
This is like one of those times in history where like you're giving people unrealistic expectations about their bodies and abilities to have glory. Like the average individual is not an Avenger. Like,
excuse me. Yeah, they're not. But with.
And like, I like how she brought it to present day with what was happening recently, like within the past 5 years.
I remember watching or like paying attention to this on the news, and I just like I roughly knew what happened, but I didn't realize like
what brought up to it, like this whole we were just not following the rules because freedom, rawr.
We're just gonna take this land and do with it what we want because that's what we do. And it's like, no. And I think when they were talking to someone, they're like, what is happening? And saying all the negative effects that has happened for them just grazing the land that they're not supposed to. But this whole thing with them, like, because it was like a standoff for like a long time. And then let's see. And then this
happened when Trump was president too, and Trump likes these people.
Of course, yeah. He pardoned them. Also, it was funny because at some points I was just listening to the audio while walking Nigel, and so she was talking about the Bureau of Land Management, but she abbreviated BLM, and I'd be like, "The Black Lives Matter did what?"
There was a book I read where that happened. No, it wasn't that. It was, have you watched the show? It was on HBO. It was about the white people on vacation and how messed up they were. It was really popular this summer, but I'm blanking on its name.
The White People on Vacation.
It was really big this summer, and I'm blanking on it. White Lotus? Is that what it's called? I don't know. Regardless, there was a character who met a guy who said he worked for the BLM, and she thought it was Black Lives Matter, but it was
literally like there was just parts, it was like the BLM I'm like, they have vehicles? Oh, the Bureau of Land Management. Yeah.
The White Lotus was right. It's a very creepy show. I like it a lot.
It's not like a reality show.
No, it's like a mini series.
Not the White People on Vacation by Emily Henry.
No. What I would say is if you listen to the theme song for The White Lotus, it pretty much tells you what you're in store for. I feel like that theme song really captures the vibes, and it's not comfortable.
Yeah. Okay. I
Back to
don't
this.
think I heard of that, so I'm gonna have to look up and see what that was. But that whole situation, her explaining them and their rights that they thought they had, and I'm just so annoyed. And then she,
it's also
one
the
of the
perfect
people,
moment of the system works as designed. They have the audacity to claim a federal building as their own. Some people have the audacity of saying, I live in this house, but still get shot by the cops. Like, like it's so different, the systems.
They're like, yeah, it's our land. Just like, no, it's not. And then one of them, I don't know if it was like the dad or whoever, did a racist tirade opening with, I want to tell you one more thing I know about the Negro. And I know they're from Oregon, but every time I see the word Negro, I have to read it with a Southern accent, which is never a good start. He said, they abort their young children, put their young men in jail because they never learned how to pick cotton. That's it. That must be it. I've often wondered, are they better off as slaves picking cotton and having a family life and doing things? Or are they better off under government subsidy? They didn't get no more freedom. They got less freedom.
The definition of freedom, too, is like really interesting.
And it just made me think of things that I've seen in like Stamped from the beginning, and even like Medical Apartheid, where the question always came up, like, are they really going to be okay if they're not under our, ownership and our watch? Like, you mean the people who've been taking care of themselves, their families, and your work? I think they'll be fine. But that just...
Yeah.
Let me eat a gummy bear real quick.
Let me eat a gummy bear. Yeah, no, people say really weird things, even today. Like, we all have family. Well, maybe not all of us, but I for sure have family who say things that make me uncomfortable instantly, and to the point where they dumbfound me in the offensive stupidity of a statement. And I've gotten better at learning to respond, but the shock value is high. Gummy bears are good.
Yeah. Gummy bears, hey, they are here for my sanity. But it's just the Bundy brothers from
Jillian's comment.
Illegally snatching land from indigenous people is the original NFT.
I don't even know if that's a really good comparison, but I really hate NFTs.
But honestly, though, it doesn't make any sense. But like, they got pardoned by Donald Trump, and they got their grazing rights restored. Like, what? How does that make any sense?
And meanwhile, the land is still being abused and is going to be less,
The, let's see, someone who, they asked about the consequences and said the water quality is damaged. They're changing the ecosystem, overgrazing, erosion, wildlife species are like going extinct. They're trashing the land, but it's like, here, have it back. And don't worry, you got pardoned too. Enjoy. Have a great day.
Yeah. And it's like literally so childish, right? Like, we all grow up in houses where like every parent has their own rules, but you have rules. And when you fight against the rules, you're just being childish. These are just child men. Like, it's just, these are basic rules. Pay your 10% or something. I don't know.
It's just... I don't understand. The story of the cowboy acted out by stage performers like William Cody also created a persona that white men seeking power could adopt in order to project an image for the American public to relate to. The idea of the cowboy as an honest everyman getting elected, the idea of the cowboy, or is it played a large part in the iconography? Ooh, sorry. I can't read, y'all. That made George W. Bush so popular with white men in his presidential campaigns. It's just...
Everyone loves an everyone man.
Yeah. They're like, now see, that's a down home, good old American man. That's who
super relatable. He went to an Ivy League school. I could have done that.
His family. Oh, yeah. He comes from oil money. Totally relatable.
Oh, the comment on the labor in the North and South. We will get to that when that chapter comes up because it is good. It's a good chapter.
Everyone. It couldn't be them. Never, basically. Oh, so sorry. Here's your land back. But yeah, I liked how she put those two stories together to be like, oh yeah, you thought that was just something from then. Oh no, here's something in the very much present time that's still happening.
And it's
They,
probably like the biggest reason that there's always pushback for diverse stories. Like we don't think about it, but like they really do need centered stories.
Mhm.
Like it's if they don't have a person to root for in NCIS, what will they do? Like I'm no dissing the show. I mean, serialized TV shows work for people, but you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of them love Gibbs, I'm sure, who's generally a good character, but he's our present day cowboy. Like
I've never watched NCIS, but I have my own propaganda shows that I enjoy. Like Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I also watched like 11 seasons of Criminal Minds, but then I was like, I'm supposed to watch this after Shamar Moore leaves. What? No.
my propaganda show is Bones, but even in Bones, they talk about how guns are bad and that Booth is kind of brainwashed, so they at least challenge it a little.
Nice. Yeah. Oh yeah, they definitely, I don't need to because it's just going to raise my blood pressure, but I know about the KKK, but I don't I want a nonfiction book. Like, I want to know.
Have you watched the Spike Lee movie, The Black Klansman? It's a fun one.
Is it fun?
Okay, well, it is good art.
I haven't watched it, no.
It is good
have
art.
Any other things about the Cowboys and Patriots chapter that you...
I mean, I do like the idea that the more you push against the system, the more free you're thought to be until you are someone who is not a white dude who wants to push against the system to change it. Then you're not a patriot anymore. You're a patriot if you don't pay your taxes, but you're not a patriot if you want to change how the rules are made. You just have to break it's so weird, the dichotomy.
You're a patriot if you don't want to pay your taxes and you are white, because if you are black, you was going to prison. But yeah, it's always like, yes, America is this place with all these different people and ethnicities and ideas, but you need to be this, and this, or you obviously hate us. So get in line. Ooh, yeah.
No, this book definitely colored how I interacted with the world the week I read it.
It's not fun, but it's good.
It has funny moments. Like there's some comedy, but it's definitely that like satire, dark comedy. And the ending is not funny whatsoever. The ending was Spike Lee just doing stuff.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I definitely haven't gotten to that one, but I'll just put it on my long list of things that I eventually will watch when I have the time span, the attention span.
Yeah, it requires some emotional bandwidth as well.
Yes. All right. So our next chapter was For Your Benefit in Our Image, the centering of white men in social justice movements. And wow, these men, the audacity. But we should, I don't know why I get surprised. I did love how she started this chapter talking about the dude who is the comedian, because I feel like in just social media land, you can just see that happen for so many people. There's like the progressive white guy or whatever, and then you're like, they disappear and they come back. You're like, wait, you're doing, this is related, I promise. But so Andrew used to watch these twins on YouTube. They are black, they're biracial, but they're black dudes. They were in the Marines, and they would talk, like they did comedy, but also gym stuff. And so he would watch it. Sometimes I watched it. They were funny. Then the Trump train comes, and I don't think their YouTube had been doing as well, or like they were trying to start up comedy, and they did one of those and hopped onto, it was so weird to watch. And now they're just like, now I think they've gone up to millions on YouTube, of course, because now they're catering to all of that. Now they're on the Trump train and, oh, you libs and snowflakes. And I'm like, that's what that made me think of, because I've just seen that in real time. And I'm like, it's so weird to me.
Yeah. I think someone mentioned it was that.
Yeah, the Hodge twins. And I mean, it's just like, a Candace or a something, to where, I mean, this is obviously talking about white men and they're black, but if that's not working, one thing, you get called out for something, or someone wants to like bring you in to talk to you about something, and it's like, oh, it's like a complete switch. And I'm like, well, how did you go from here to there? It's
like a thing that I don't know when it happens when we're growing up, but we're like, I I don't know about other countries or cultures, but especially in the United States, if you make a mistake, there's like this paralyzing thing that makes everyone super defensive all the time. And it doesn't matter what you're making a mistake, how big or small. There's just like this thing. And I mean, it happens to me. I normally just go into a little ball and I'm just really scared and like don't know what to do. But other people lash out. And I'm like, why are we so scared of being wrong? And I think about school and how school doesn't like until college be like, ask questions. It's okay if you say the wrong answer. You know, if you are wrong in school, people make fun of you. And like... So I don't know if that's part of it, but you're not allowed to be wrong. And you're all for supporting people until you accidentally offend someone because you are raised in a white supremacist culture. So you're going to offend someone eventually.
Yes. Sadly, it's not just, but people don't believe, you know, that's not real. But that is a thing because it is, I mean, being wrong in school, you never want to be called on and you don't know the answer or not be prepared. And yeah, it takes, and especially now on social media where you could read something that's not accurate or all these different things, say something, especially now with different gender identities and pronouns. And I've been corrected. It's so hard though for some people are like, oh God, you're so sensitive. It's like, no, I just was.
And like, it's sometimes I hate that I am sensitive and I can tell it was like a trained thing, but like, it's not about like, so I'll get sensitive when someone like will correct me and I'll like internally be, but I'll always say thank you and like try to like figure out how to like have a better way of being corrected and critiqued.
I'm not good at it. I do not take criticism well. I'm like, I knew you meant it constructively, but my Pisces heart is crushed, okay?
And I mean, I think us as women, we are more likely to be criticized, so we get used to it. But like white men, when are they critiqued? And that's like a good thing to grow from. Maybe when they're playing a sport. I have no clue. Like, I don't know the positive.
Does it happen? Or
I cannot speak from a white man perspective. I am a cis woman.
Yeah,
no
I
clue.
truly do not know. But these dudes, what were their names? I had it written in here.
Are we talking about the comedian? Oh no, the two guys who were like the head of their movements and bounced.
Oh, Floyd Dell and Max Eastman, at the center of the 1910s socialist feminism. They were like, you know what's great? You know what's great for men? If women become more liberated. It wasn't like we want women to become more liberated. You know what would be great for us? Because if they weren't just, you know, these prudish housewives, they would have more sex with us. They literally were like, yes, feminism, but feminism that works perfectly how I want it. So I want you to be with me, but also be fine with me being over here.
And that leads into like the Bernie Bros section where they had a message that would benefit all people, but they wouldn't center it around women or people of color. It's like, well, this is an issue that works for everyone. And we are strategically doing that because we get more buy-in because that's probably what we as the white people at the top believe and know, but also statistically that is true. Like,
it just, she said whiteness is not only threatened when it takes on too many traits of identities of color, it's also threatened when communities of color cease to stay below whiteness where society's scripts say they belong. So they're like, yeah, this is all great. This will benefit us all. But then it's like in the Bernie Bros section, like, well, could we talk about this? Or like, no.
When they talked about the school trips, when they wanted to have black students there because were suffering with black demographics and they only sold it to white people who came to the historical black colleges, I'm like, that's not even a hard dot to connect. Even if you don't have a black person in the room, which you obviously had one or two and ignored them. Like
a historically black college and you don't want to and they're like, oh, we didn't have the money. And they're like, no, the campaign actually was doing extremely well. So
even then, like the school, it's not, you were struggling with that demographic. That demographic was going to lose you that state. You knew this. Like, it's just such a flaw because you're so self-centered on your whiteness. You know what I mean? Like, it's an avoidable flaw in design.
With all of his, like, you know, if we want to talk about race, like, let's not make it about identity politics. We need to it's more about class. And like, yes, but the class and race, you can't have, they both.
You're talking about the white identity and saying that everyone relates to the white identity.
Yes. Of course, yeah. They're like, I want an independent woman who listens to me in everything I say. Guy might be able to say leftist theory, but does he do this?
Yeah. And like, obviously not all of the like, she's very specific about which Bernie bros she's talking about. She's talking about people who manage the campaign and the really intense social media people.
Yes. Which she had some of those messages in here that she got when she did that tweet about Bernie. And also when she mentioned, or people would mention, he marched with Dr. King. Like anytime it's like, he marched with Dr. King. And it's like, okay, that's great. But that one thing doesn't, like they keep hanging on to that one thing. It's almost like that. I have a black friend. I marched with Dr. King. Okay, but what else are you doing? Like, are you actually working towards the thing he was working for, the policies? Like,
well, and also it's I mean, I'm not a black person, but it also feels really insulting to be like, this is the reason why you as a black person should vote for him, because he marched with this famous black person. I'm like, I assume, like, I don't care about famous white people and who they interacted with in history when I'm voting. Like, you're like, I care about other things.
That's it. They're like, yeah, you see this picture? He marched with Dr. King. Anything else? What do you want? Like, what do you want from him?
Like, what are, like, and like, he did have plans that like would benefit all, but I think her focus on, but he wasn't centralizing it. Like, he was purposefully going out of his way to not do so.
Exactly. Like, that's just like all the people on social media, every MLK that, they're like, oh, hey, I put up this tweet. Okay, but did you, or people who always like to use his stuff out of context. Like, you obviously really didn't listen or listen to the whole speech, read the whole speech, or even get what he was saying, but you love to put it up here. Like, see, this was not the America Dr. King was marching for.
Literally everyone who tweets on MLK Day are the same people who are banning books from schools. Yeah. Like, it's like the Venn diagram is a circle. Like,
they're like, oh, let me go to my saved folder. I know I've got my favorite King quote in here to put up once a year. It's so awful. And then, of course, you can't talk about the Bernie Bros without talking about Joe Byron. Sorry, I'm thinking of that TikTok song. But like, some of that I already known for.
Yeah, I mean, it came out when he was running, right? Like, at least the podcast I was listening to talked about the busing stuff.
But just his contradictions, like they said, or she said, it was so convoluted, like his stance that the paper was like, he is both for and against busing. Like, how is that your stance, sir? It's one or the other. But I remember when I was taking this book around because I was cleaning, and it said he got the message. If he continued to defend busing, he ran the real risk of becoming a one-term senator. So of course, it's always like, what's in my best interest? But this next one, I know Joe Biden ain't stupid, but this next section, he really sounds stupid.
He's like, he's like the king of gaffes and being flustered when he's on the spot. Like, and I feel for him. Like, no one likes to be called out on the spot. Like, I'm not like, that's a human response.
Yes. So he said, he explained the good white people he represented weren't racist, but busing might make them racist. He said, you take people who aren't racist, people who are good citizens, who believe in equal education opportunity, and you stunt their children's intellectual growth by busing them to an inferior school, and you're going to fill them with hatred. So this makes me think of Mean Girls. So you admit it, their schools are inferior. So you do see why Black parents would want their.
So we need to discuss what busing is for international folks.
Oh,
based off the comments, at least one international.
I didn't think of that. So when I mean, I feel like you can explain it better than
so we have very segregated schools even today, and one minor solution we attempted was, because the problem is they're segregated because our schools are funded based off property tax, which is based on the value of property. And white neighborhoods tend to have better property than Black neighborhoods. And so the solution was shipping Black kids to white schools and white kids to Black schools. So it would kind of force people to care about each other's communities and give kids a chance to be for the Black kids to a white school, be in a better funded school. And if a white kid goes to a Black school, then that PTA mom might give a fuck. And understandably, people didn't want that because people don't care about their neighbors. They care about their inner circle.
Yes.
And they're racist.
And obviously, they realized that the schools that were predominantly or all Black they weren't as good because they were underfunded, so they didn't have supplies or the conditions
were overcrowded.
Good, yeah. And so of course they don't want little Susie to go over there. And Joe Biden just said that in his quote, like you're gonna make these white people racist because you're just ruining Susie's education. So yeah, busing.
And like busing isn't a perfect solution, but as she says in the text, it was the only one that actually did something instead of nothing. Like we talked at the top, like the beginning of this, we're really diagnosing our problem in this nonfiction. This was an actual like systematic approach to trying to force people to see this thing and engage with it.
Something actionable, not great, but something to like, we see this problem. We have white people over here, and we have Black people over here, and we need them to go like here. But he went even further, calling the concept of busing itself racist. Why did Black students need to sit next to white students in order to succeed? How patronizing. Were Black students not smart and talented enough to succeed on their own? Joe, do you think are you listening? Joseph.
Yeah.
Angela, amazing definition of busing. Thank you.
I've only been going to school and learning in Black History Month for however many years. It's like one of the few things they teach. Also, fun fact, we know that how we fund our schools is unconstitutional. It's been unconstitutional. We have done zero to fix it. Zero.
But if a parent dare they try to lie about their zip code or get their kid into a better school district, send them to jail.
Especially since, like, so what's weird is, so like in my home state of Ohio, there is income tax that also goes to funding schools, and you have to pay an city tax based off where you work and where you live. So my mom has to pay for the city she lives in and the city she works for. But could she send her kid to the school where she pays taxes where she works? No. And wouldn't that make sense as you drive to work to drop your kid off at school there if you liked that school district better? Because that school district has big companies that have a lot of income tax.
Yep. The whole system is a raggedy mess. And now you have these schools where like that are like, don't teach my children to hate themselves because they're white. You're teaching them critical. No one is teaching your fourth grader critical race theory, Jared. Please. I'm so sick of it.
They're scared because literally everything adults do in these systems is so convoluted and broken. It's obvious from a very young age that nothing makes sense. Like when I was taught the Electoral College in fourth grade, I was like, this is what we do. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, I was legitimately confused. Adults came up with this system, and we see now that it works perfectly. The South didn't want to lose slavery, and here we are.
Oh yeah, the color of law is good. It talks about all that de facto and de jure.
Can we read that one? Can we vote for that one month?
Sure, I'd reread it. Because Biden was like, he was for busing to correct de jure segregation and against it to correct de facto segregation, meaning that he was in support of busing where school segregation had been purposely built and maintained, but against it where it just happened outside of racist segregation efforts. Like, Joseph, what do you think about things before you say them, sir?
And also, what's fun? He didn't write that himself. Someone on his staff wrote that.
But no, a review. Yes, don't even get me on a tangent with these whole arguments about what's being taught in schools now, aka real history. But okay, that's not the problem. It's just everyone needs to grab their damn bootstraps and get it together.
As of someone who actually went to one of the few integrated schools in the United States, like it was 65% Black and 35% white. It didn't solve racism, but a lot of us came out at least understanding what it was like to be wrong. If that makes sense. Like, I don't know. It was definitely better than going to college where everything was so white. Yeah.
And of course, and a lot of Black families didn't want their kids to have to go to those. And of course, they face so much violence and just, negativity from people. But there's schools. I mean, it's still today in schools where you have a large majority of Black and brown students that don't have heating or don't have air conditioning, don't have good textbooks. Like, And then you go down to this school that has, I don't know, like state of the art smart boards and all
They
of
got
these
those
things.
fancy printers in their library,
Yeah,
like the 3D printers.
And the one teacher in this school is like, I still using this overhead projector from 1987.
Well, it's also not even just supplies. It's the ability to have advanced programming classes. It's the ability to have certain electives. Like it's literally it shapes the whole spectrum of
their entire future. Oh, I know. Teaching kids empathy, trash. Why would we do that?
I'm not quite convinced that they need to be taught empathy. I feel like our systems take it away from people. Like I feel like we lose empathy.
Well, our whole this is a side. I'm so, you know what? I'm not embarrassed anymore. I enjoy TikTok, okay? But I was watching, so this girl on there, she came across a group on Facebook that is about people who had children and they regret it, and they were talking about it in there. And so a lot of people were just talking about our society in general, how it's just so individualistic in that regard, and like how it makes it hard. And I think that's another thing with like empathy. You're not really taught, or you're not shown that it's good to care about other people, because you're like, well, that person is your competition. That person is your enemy. Like you need to get a leg up. You need to be. And so of course there's never going to be empathy, or that person looks different than you. So of course they're the enemy. It's like our entire culture here is just like you.
Something
only.
like that I noticed really strikingly as a kid is when I went to Venezuela as a kid, everyone had block parties every night. It wasn't a special thing. The whole neighborhood knew each other. We were always out and about chatting. And I know that exists in the United States in some areas, but in my suburb back home, we attempted block parties. Nothing ever happened. People were in their homes and they did not care about each other, but no one wanted to form community connections. No one wanted to do that. And it's just like, I feel that a lot, how we're all very individualistic in how we care about what happens. And I'm like that too. I care about where I'm getting my food. I care about my job, my future. Like I am centralizing myself most of the time. But I think that's part of the problem.
Yes, we are dealing with Joseph's lying, crusty ass. Hey, South Carolina, what's up? I feel so bad for you teachers right now. I could not. Yeah. Busing. So busing was more, I guess it was in the South and the North.
I don't know for sure how prevalent it was everywhere. I think it was mostly city areas, probably. I don't know. I mean, like someone mentioned, like forcing people to do stuff is generally never going to work that well. I mean, here is my concept, which I'm sure it'll never work out. We have a federal tax part, maybe part of the military funding. I don't know, pick a part of the funding that is just for public schools from the federal, and then you just have a straight per child thing, and it goes to school, and you don't have added benefits from your community. It's just every school has this much, and any taxes you would have given to your state goes to this big pot. But people don't want things to be equal for everyone. Like no one wants that. They want something better and shinier.
If it's equal, then it's like, are you saying that person is as good as I am?
Absolutely. I live on a street where so many kids went to private schools because they thought my school was scary. It was crazy.
Do the work, Jennifer. Amen. Oh, it looks like we might be reading Color of Law.
I'm just saying, I've been wanting to dive more into things.
Yes, Ruby Bridges. There is that iconic photo of her having to be escorted into the school by police officers.
The woman who was the child for Brown versus Board of Education, still alive, talks a lot. And I listened to a podcast where she talked about the bad parts about Brown versus Board of Education, where sure, they desegregated schools, but they didn't desegregate teaching. Like all the Black teachers were no longer hired. And that's a problem, as we all know, if you don't have people of your demographic teaching you.
Yeah, I can probably count on both hands from K through 12 how many Black teachers I had.
Yeah,
it wasn't that many.
Well, and I mean, I think it's just part of the problem, and it's not something people ever get taught in school or think about.
Yeah. And it's just because even where I'm from, so I grew up in Summerville, South Carolina, which is outside of Charleston. We lived in Charleston when I was smaller, but then their school districts weren't great. So my mom moved us to Summerville, which had a better school district, which also meant predominantly white school district. And so, of course, I didn't go to school with as many Black kids, Black or brown kids, or like teachers. And it's just like, it's just sad that there's differences. Like I have a cousin who's older than I am, and like the line, South Carolina, I don't know how it is everywhere else, but they go by like, they have these invisible lines of where you go to different schools. And so she had to make sure like she was in this neighborhood, but if she was like 2 houses down this way, then her daughter would go to this not good school in this one. But then the houses were more affordable there. So then they did go there, but now they're sending their daughter to private school.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I have a lot of issues with school outside of like the racial problems. Like, I feel like teenagers' focus points are so low that like we could be using that time to like teach them skills like plumbing or other things. Like I was valedictorian and I could not focus in high school. So I cannot imagine. Yeah. Well,
I was nothing Victorian, okay?
Listen, there was trauma in my life, and I was the person with trauma who went into the books. You know that character who's in every YA novel?
That was not I, but I am happy.
Oh, Maya, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
None.
So I don't, the busing thing is, like I said, she acknowledges in the text, busing is not the solution. But it was at least something funded by the federal government to address a systemic problem, which we have on probably one hand any sort of laws that attempted that.
Honestly, I mean, I know they exist, but
They're called Excel techs where I went.
I am unfortunately in the because basically it was so amazing when I went to college, like first in the family, and now I have all this student loan debt and a worthless bachelor's degree that basically is a high school diploma, and I'm like, well, I don't have any more money to keep going to school, I'm not gonna say nor any desire, because I do have a slight desire, but it's just But that was the thing. It was like, this is before the rise of social media or all these things that were even a concept.
Oh, yeah, when we were leaving high school, like Twitter was a baby.
Yeah, like this is your way to get a job, and now it's like, that's funny. Do you have a PhD? I've literally seen a job posting for a master's degree that was paying like maybe $15 an hour. Excuse me?
Dude, I'm about to have my PhD and I still can't do the job I want to do. We've talked about it. I hate everything.
Home ec. Seriously, I can't.
Literally, I don't know how to sew a button onto my sweater. You know where I could have learned that? You could also have a class on insurance policies and how to make them make sense, taxes. Like these are all memes. I'm not the first person to come up with these ideas.
Yeah, some of these, oh my God, some of these tweets from the Bernie bros, woof, oh my God.
Yeah, they're a lot. I mean, yeah. And you and I had our favorites in the primary that weren't Bernie.
Yeah. But for anyone curious what a Bernie bro is, she defines it as the term appears to have been first coined by Robinson Meyer at The Atlantic. So it came to stand for a young white man who will vigorously defend Sanders from any negative comment, usually with long lectures explaining how the commenter doesn't understand politics or doesn't care about poor people, people of color, and women if they don't support Bernie, even if the person he is lecturing happens to be a woman of color. And yeah, they're on Twitter. It's just like, yes, I have seen this. And I'm like, you must be out your goddamn mind.
Literally, Bernie bros have a folder in their Twitter where they have the Martin Luther King Bernie picture on standby.
Did you see Bernie marched with Dr. King?
and like, the picture where Bernie's being beat up by the cops, that one is also in their folder.
And
they get really rude and vulgar, and it's the same as when we talk in the book community about mega fans for authors, where they like forget the themes that the author preaches and just become the thing that they hate.
One of the tweets someone said, a Bernie bro said, I just want to let you know that I think people like you should be hung in a public execution to show this world that we won't stand for this sort of corruption. Sir, what?
No.
Just, some other things I won't say on here. They got some vulgar language. And I think this applies also to, again, like the book community and stuff with fandoms. She said Sanders did not create these more extreme and sometimes abusive supporters. Each one decided for themselves what to believe and how to act. But Sanders has always carried his white male privilege into his politics, even when discussing issues of race and class. And it's just always interesting when there's a figure or something, and it's like, obviously they can't control everyone, but it's like, at one point, especially like that, are you not, I don't know, acknowledging or like, maybe he's old. He's probably not on. Well, he'd be tweeting or somebody tweet for him. I don't know.
I think someone tweets for him, but it does sound like him. Like, but he says like the same 10 things. So he's very on message.
I don't think a lot of schools have home ec anymore. I mean, I didn't have it.
It was an option, but it was known that if you took home ec, you were dumb. Like you weren't. It was because you weren't taking an honors course or a different thing. Like if you had space in your schedule for home ec, it was because you were dumb, which I don't think is a good association.
Yeah. Okay, because let me tell you what things you could make bank on, but I can't do. Let me tell you, I'd never be a plumber, but they make money. I worked in homeowners insurance, and I don't know how many plumbers bills I had to look over. And they will always be in work, but I'm not.
If my family had convinced my sibling to become a mechanic instead of going to college, we don't have to pay car bills. Excuse me. You know how much you save when you just have someone who changes the oil for your car?
Just so many hands-on welding.
And unfortunately, the stigma's still there. Like I do Big Brother, Big Sister, and I was talking to my student because she wants to become a nurse, so she was doing all that, and she got into college. But when I also talked about, like, you know, if you're not sure yet, there's community colleges, or you can do associate's degree, or there's, you know, these trade schools. It's like, no, my mom wants me to go to college. And I'm like, okay, but like, that's fine. I mean, she's smart, so I'm sure she'll be okay. But like you said, you know, there's a lot of pressure on first generation students to bridge that gap, I guess.
Yeah. And I wish somebody would, Joe, your lying ass, where my student loans they're still there. I need home economics now.
Again, I don't know how to sew this button. I'm about to get a PhD and I cannot do this simple task.
Yes, all of these, they make good money, honey.
Also, they're good in the apocalypse.
Every time I watch anything that's like dystopian, I'm like, wow, I really would be dead soon. I don't have any kind of skills outside of the house. Oh no, we don't see color. My favorite, not. We have a major skilled labor shortage. It's, you know, because I think college has some great benefits on, you know, like certain things, you know, learning independence and stuff and the different courses. Like I love all of the random things that I just got to, you know, all the electives and stuff, but everyone doesn't need to or want to or do well in those settings, and it's totally fine. Or, you know, if you could get, even if it was just like you're already in the landscaping, can you just do an associate's in business to learn certain things like that? And I think it's changing now that people realize that going to college isn't this like guarantee.
Because I think there really was this disconnect between parents and kids about the price. Because like I talked to my stepdad, and like he got scholarships like me, and I'm like, I need you to understand that it is like 10 times as much as when you went to school. Like you really cannot have had a summer job.
Yeah,
should we switch to the college section since we've been talking about this? I don't remember what chapter that was.
Look, he said, we just need a village of people. Seriously, I was like, I need to learn to do something because I really have no skill to survive in any kind of which let me see what
it's coming up. I think it's like about like how they were
maybe that's just the next one.
It's like she had a good flow to this nonfiction.
The Ivy League and the tax eaters, white men's assault on higher education.
Because like I think they know that there's value in it, and they want to diminish its value though, as like women are primarily the people who go to college. I think more women now go to college than men.
Yes. And yeah, more women have degrees. And it's just all of, I think, into multiple things with the patriarchy of like, I see things by these incels on Twitter and their podcasts, like a woman who makes more money than me, I wouldn't be attracted to that. Like, okay, well, you're dumb. Or and then in here, of course, talking about like that's where they brainwash your kids, you know, teach them all that liberal nonsense. Like, I mean, not if you don't go to a liberal arts school.
Well, even then, like, I mean, what brainwashing happened at college for me? I mean, I learned that You learn college is a scam when you go to college, because you learn that no one is taught how to teach, but you're paying them $10K a year and that's a low price to be taught by people who were not trained to teach, because we have this assumption, because of legacy, which it's all about legacy, that the person who becomes a PhD was taught by this dude who taught the same way, and it's like, well, it worked for me, it'll work for you, and all the research shows that it really doesn't work for everyone, and we just ignore it.
Some people are so just naturally good at teaching, and I've had so many professors who are horrible and have made me struggle, and then I've had hard courses with an excellent professor who cared about teaching and people actually learning, and I did well because of them. A quote in this chapter that I liked, because especially when we're talking about how they're like, we don't, want people to go to college, said the campuses and many white men are made to fear as a direct threat to masculinity and white supremacy are the same places where white men learn to ascend to the throne of white male political power. And it's like, because she talks about how often Trump would talk about where he went to school. And it's like, you're telling people like, oh, and they're just at college trying to brainwash you. But it's like, oh, I went to this school. My daughter goes to this school.
The book said he sent all his kids to school. Like, my best friend went to school with Tiffany Trump. Like, they graduated the same year.
God bless.
I mean, she's apparently a fine individual. Like, she's not. Okay. She's an individual who is rich and privileged. So I assume those are the vibes. Someone was asking. I was including just tuition for a state school, for in-state tuition. I didn't include room or board or anything like that. And actually, mine was like $9,000 at Ohio State when I went, I think. So it varies from that low number of 8,000 to as high as 50,000. Like in my life.
I remember when I applied to George Washington and American University, and then I realized, like, I got in and then realized how much it was. I was like, you want 50 grand for a year? And that was, I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was, but it was not recently.
When I applied to MIT, I did not get in, but like their tuition, room and board total was $85K a year at the time, which is 2011. And Ohio State room board tuition was like $20K. So it was like a $60K different. You don't get scholarship to go to MIT. You get financial aid because everyone who goes to MIT is like smart. You don't get like any sort of thing. Yeah.
85.
Yeah. That included room and board. So I don't know how much was
I thought my loans were, but that's more than my total loans.
See, you can feel better than someone who went to MIT.
They probably got a good job though.
Probably. There's a lot of, and that's the other thing about college. It's all about systems, right? It's all about name recognition. Like someone who goes and gets a degree at Harvard and something, their degree is not inherently better than someone who went to a state school with the same degree. Maybe they had a slightly different curriculum and you can judge it based off that, but that's not what it's judged on. It's judged on name recognition.
Harvard, and then who you meet there, because it's
and then you get to network, and like, I mean, specifically for like Harvard Law, I know a lot about Harvard Law because my friend goes there. Like, you literally just they beg you to intern for them, and then where you intern is where you get the job.
Yeah, I've never been a person who was like, I want to be a nurse when I want to be older. I want to be a firefighter. Never have had. I have, since young Jessica has never dreamt of labor. Okay. Never. The only thing I had I was like, oh, I want to be an author because I loved books. And then I was like, I hate writing. No. So I go through things all the time. I'm like, oh, this week I would like to be this when I grow up. But then I'm like, law school? Like, I already have enough student loans. I couldn't, because a lot of things, or for a while I was considering getting a doctor of physical therapy, which was a 3-year program, at least the one I was looking at in Charleston. But it was 3 years, year round, and you cannot work. You cannot work. You have no time to work. And I'm like, so where do I how do I live?
Yeah, you have to take out loans just to live, even if you could pay for the school. Also, BU, so my tuition for BU that I don't have to pay, thank God, is $50K a year for a PhD, which is also a scam because I don't take classes. Like, for the past 4 years, I have not taken a class.
So what does that go to?
I do not know. Like, I don't have to pay it. It's paid because it goes through this whole like weird machine of money where my department at BU pays BU for me to exist.
What? Okay, I wanted to go back to this because I didn't. Trump pushed vocational schools more, but that is seen as racist. I mean, I'm not an expert on the Trump presidency.
Trump by accident says something that is correct.
What is a broken clock is wrong is right twice a day. So I don't think that particularly is racist because we do need, or I mean,
I don't know the context. Like, I don't know what he said before or after it. That could color the tone in which he sent it.
Because he just said exactly. But I'm here to say that yes to vocational schools. And if he said yes to them, then that might be one of the things that he said that wasn't absolutely terrible.
He will accidentally like reveal the game sometimes and be like, "Oh, I didn't actually mean that."
Exactly. It's very much about the who you know, which is garbage because a lot of that is legacy. My grandfather was in this club, and then my dad, and then my
I literally just read like JFK's way to get into Harvard thing the other week, and it was just literally like, my dad went to Harvard. I want to be a Harvard man.
Yeah, it's like, and especially even just as someone, I never thought about it till recently. I think it was someone said it on Twitter. No one in my family went to college. My mom graduated. They graduated high school. So now I'm applying to college at 18. I'm allowed to sign a promissory note for this amount of money. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you let an 18-year-old say, yes, I'll take these loans? What?
And they're so harsh. Like, yeah.
They're awful. The interest is insane.
Yeah, no, my kids, they as a parent, when I have children, it's going to be, do you really want to go, or do you just want to party for a few years? Because if you just want to party for a few years, we can just pay for an apartment and a car, and that is a lot cheaper than student loans. And when you want to learn, we can adjust.
Yeah. College tuition, like if I ever did, because I do just want to be a professional scholar. I tell people this all the time. I just want to learn. If I got an advanced degree, I'm going to Sweden or Norway. I'm not going in America. Like, I know some programs are like paid for and stuff, or like some PhDs, but like, no, I'm not doing it. It's trash.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's just once in a while he speaks facts and he forgets that he's supposed to be this larger than life like farce.
Yes. I hate everything. But what did she talk about? This was Princeton. They also had that with Woodrow Wilson. I didn't realize he was the president of Princeton.
Was this the Princeton wasn't the Harvard one with the anti-Semitic parts. Princeton was just racist.
Yeah. There were the 2015, the students who were like doing the protests because they wanted the teachers and staff to undergo cultural competency training classes on marginalized groups and cultures, and Woodrow Wilson's name removed because he was a president and he was real racist. Even for his time, he was considered very racist. He didn't allow a single Black student in Princeton during his tenure. But then, we got into Harvard, and it said, as colleges expanded beyond religious education and standardized their admissions process, wealthy families, and a lot of them were Jewish, started admitting their kids to college, and they were like, oh, hold up. We don't want them in here. And so then they started figuring out ways to not have, Black and Jewish students.
Yeah, subtle ways.
Yeah, they were like, the school didn't need all these Jewish and Black students scaring away the wealthy white Christian students who paid Harvard's bills. How dare! Get out of here.
I mean, I think I could figure out as a kid why I didn't want to go to Ivy Leagues, because I didn't apply to any Ivies. I could have gotten in, I think. With the sappy story I could have written on it. And I can play the I'm half Venezuelan card. I think I could have gotten in, but no amount of I did not want to be around the type of people who go to Harvard, which are very privileged elite people.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to Sweden. Thank you. I said, wait until you're 22 and your FAFSA will be better because it's based on your income. Not, yeah, that was another thing. Is it was based on my parents, but I'm like, they still don't have no money though, and they have 3 other children. No, but still, okay, y'all don't need to know my whole life story, but you about to get some of it. So I went to college straight out of high school, so 18, but then I dropped out and I worked for a while, and I went back at 24, 23, 24, or no. I'm backtrack. Okay. I was filling out my FAFSA. So at 18, I was financially independent from my parents. Like they were not, I had a job. They were not helping me, but they still counted their money towards, I'm like, no, I am making this little piece of change and that's it. The FAFSA is trash. I hate it all. Yes, we are, Tracy.
Yeah, like my father was deported when I was in high school, and we wish he hadn't have been for many reasons. But one of them with FAFSA is if my dad was in the country, we could have used his income instead of my mom's because my parents were divorced, and he didn't make a lot of money. But instead, my mom, God forbid, has a pretty good job. So, but not enough to like pay for college. Like they also have weird expectations for how much money can pay for something. Like the way they budget you.
You're like, okay, yeah, she makes that, but she also has children, a home, a car. We have to eat. There's bills, there's taxes. What do y'all think? They're also going to have this left over. It's like, yeah, their budgets are like, it's like sim budgeting. It's terrible. Right? Like, come on. It's absolutely cherizash. Oh, and then this part, which I had heard about before, but with Carl Brigham and his basically into eugenics and figuring out creating a test, which we know as the SAT, which I did terrible on. And 90 minutes in on chapter 3. Yeah, you got to bring snacks. I'm long-winded, honey. I'm sorry.
I eventually will have to get snacks if we keep going for another hour and a half.
But yeah, that test. So I love how the racist person made the test, but then even was like, you know what? My test is kind of ass. It is bad. And they were like, we're going to keep it.
IQ test also bad. IQ test does not test anything other than like spatial relation skills.
It is.
Don't even get me started on how we measure intelligence. I really hate that conversation. Like, I mean, I like it, but I hate like how we measure intelligence. I don't think there's a really quantifiable way, but we try to, and I think it leads to the competition we'd been talking about.
Yeah,
lack of community.
Also just like, if you haven't been watching Abbott Elementary, you should. It's on Hulu. And one episode they were just talking about having like a gifted program, but then they realized, it was making some kids feel different. And like one of the teachers was pointing out like, okay, maybe this kid's gifted in math, but this one's in art. It's just all these different ways, but it's very limiting on how they like quantify intelligence. And it's like, well, you're not good at this, then you're just dumb overall. And it's like, no, there's so many other talents or skills this person might have.
Like, I literally hate the dumb jock persona with every fiber of my being. I'm like, excuse me, are you able to, in real time, take an information and then respond quickly and easily to then adjust to your surroundings to then do the thing that they're doing? Because basketball, football, soccer, hockey, there's a lot of real-time fast data processing going on. And then
tell you, not me.
Telling your body to do a thing in response to the data processing.
I would get hit in the face.
No,
these systems, these eyes, these hands, they are not coordinated. They would, I thought this was in a different part, but they'll teach you to hate America, where they were talking about Donald Trump.
That's fine. We understand.
Trump Jr. said, we'll take $200,000 of your money in exchange. We'll train your children to hate our country. We'll make them unemployable by teaching them courses in zombie studies, underwater basket weaving, and my personal favorite, tree climbing. I would love to take an underwater basket weaving class.
I wanted to take this chocolate class. I always did, but I could never make it fit in my schedule.
I wanted to take African dance, but it never worked.
I did take one cool history class because you had to take a history, and I finally found one I liked. It was actually called the History of African Health and Healing. So I actually learned about different countries in Africa through the lens of like cholera, malaria, AIDS, like, and when it came in and how it affected colonialization for these countries. It was cool.
Now that's cool.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it was a required class, and then I did it. But the teacher was definitely a little weird. Like,
I could see that being.
he started our first class with like the circle of life from Lion King, and I didn't know how to feel.
Okay, I approve. I love that. Exactly. I want to do that.
Like, yeah, it woke me up. It was like 9 in the morning. I'm like, I love this movie.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go listen to that. Intro to beekeeping. Save the bees.
That sounds amazing. No, I took intro to sociology. I don't recommend, mainly because all it tells you is that the world is broken and doesn't help you fix it.
I took that also, and I read like 1 or 2 of Malcolm Gladwell's books, and I was like, oh, but I enjoy anthropology the most, and I wish I had gotten a degree in anthropology because I'd probably be doing the same thing now, but I would have gotten more anthropology classes.
Yeah, I liked my one anthropology class. I learned about we read the story Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which is a nonfiction about the guy who, I think it's a memoir-ish about the guy who like went to South American and Middle Eastern countries and kind of forced them to make bad deals with America for oil in the 20th century. It really puts in perspective how we're here. So, but yeah, what else is in this chapter before we move on? Because we could talk about how much we hate college I love hate college. Like, I did like going to college.
Some of the things that they said that they'll teach in higher education is colleges are turning your children into ungrateful liberals who hate America. And then I guess they said Obama went to college. She's like, okay, setback.
If Obama didn't go to college, you would have been saying he didn't even go to college. So like, calm down.
College has gotten too expensive because college tried to maximize profits while your children get degrees in rhythmic screaming and cultural studies. Yeah.
When they were doing this section, I'm like, man, college was just me only getting 5 hours of sleep a night on a good night and like working my ass off and trying to socialize and like have friends and like trying to figure out who I am as a person, which is still ongoing project, but like,
oh my God,
so much.
I always ration snacks. Okay, I like them to last longer. But yes, anyway, we know that I just want college to be affordable so that people who want to go can go and learn cool things. I would love to take a rhythmic screaming class because now I just scream one tempo, one tone. It's very boring. So I would love to change it up. So next, let's move on. We have Far Too Many Negroes.
Oh, this is the one that was the North and South that someone mentioned
America's
earlier.
Bitter dependency on people of color, which there's a great quote I have in here, but yeah, it's talking a lot about the Great Migration when after slavery was ended, and of course, white people were like, "Oh, they're free. We don't want them here." So then they started to leave, and they're like, "But wait, we need you back because who's gonna work?"
Like you were saying earlier, it's like you've never had any labor aspirations. Neither did these white folk.
None. They're like, hold up, but I need you to come back. These people should be learning instead of protesting all day. Have they? Yes, you can do both.
You can definitely do both.
I just no. But
I remember when they almost changed the tax law to make it my my implied income versus my actual income. They were going to tax me for the tuition I didn't pay for. And I'm like, sir, I don't make $80K a year. You can't tax me like I make $80K a year. I make 30. Like, I will be taxed into poverty.
My degree is it's a Bachelor of Science in Public Health, aka I can't do anything unless I get a master's.
Yeah, you have to get a master's in public health.
And I don't want it. Side note.
It's a really pretty building here in Boston at BU. I don't necessarily recommend going to BU. It's overpriced.
Definitely not.
Pretty building.
No. Boston College is cute.
Boston College is not a place to go for graduate school. That's an undergrad school.
Oh, never looked at it.
It's also a religious school. Not that matters. It's just
really gross.
Yeah, you don't think that. It's not the state school. Neither BU or BC are state schools. It's UMass Boston and UMass Dartmouth and UMass
Amherst,
Dorchester and UMass Lowell and UMass Amherst.
Ill gross, no religion. But I forgot I was going to say something and I can't remember.
I'm sorry. You'll come back to you.
Oh, I was thinking about health administration or hospital administration. But yeah, disgusting. I don't think I can because I hate what they do. Like,
yeah. Like, yeah, it would remind me of that scene in The Incredibles where he hates working at the insurance office and trying to help people get through all the loopholes.
I was like, yeah, I don't want to do this. No, thank you. But here's the thing. It was the Southern whites' worst nightmare come true. I'm not going to say the N-word, but it's the N-word with the hard R. I'm just going to say Negro voting, holding office, and sitting in the jury box are all wrong. So that was like, they're out here with rights. Get them out of here.
So this is a random question. I haven't stumbled upon it in my reading yet, but when did it... We've always called Black people by an other name, and and like we're talking Negro. And why did the Spanish word for black take this placeholder? It's not pronounced Negro in Spanish, but it's the spelling, and I've always been thrown by it.
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't learned it in any of the nonfiction we've read yet. No one's given me this tidbit of lexicon history.
Fun fact, when I studied abroad in Spain, it was in this really small town. And of course I was the only Black person. So they stared a lot and they would refer to me as the La Negrita. And I was like, yeah, I have a name. You could just call me that. You don't have to call me the little black one, Anyway.
That's so bad.
See, Alyssa, exactly. I knew then and I know now. I don't want to be them. It's terrible. But it said, what happens when you're terrified of living alongside your neighbors, yet are more even terrified of living without them? It's like, well, you got to figure it out.
Well, and then when it talks about the North in this section, it's like, there are lots of chapters I wish many people could read, but like whenever any book mentions what happened in the North to people, I'm like, it's not just remember the Titans, like it's everywhere. I need people to understand.
Great movie.
It's a great movie, and I feel like every white person who reads that would be like, that would never happen in my neighborhood, and I'm like, but it did. But it did. You can't.
Yep. So they were like, Black people were leaving, obviously, to go to the North to work, what was it, like in industrial jobs and stuff. But then the white people in the South were like, well, hold up. Y'all need to come. Y'all don't. And so it said they did stuff like cut wages of Black workers so they couldn't afford to get up North, refused to cash their checks, made the recruitment of Black workers illegal. Like, what do y'all want? Y'all don't want them here, but you want them here. Quality film, Renee.
It's really good.
Yes. Is literally the name of the color. Yeah, it is.
No, it is.
It felt weird for me in Spain for them to refer to me as Negrita.
Especially since, southern Spain is right next to North Africa. It's not like I don't know, like there's a lot of diversity in southern Spain. So I don't know.
But yeah, speaking of the Great Migration, the book I really want to read, and I have it, is The Warmth of Other Suns, which is Isabel Wilkerson's other book, the one she wrote, Cast.
Yep.
And I want to read that one because I know kind of about the migration, but not a lot about it.
Yeah, that's like, no, it literally, this is my struggle all of the time in New England, trying to tell people that they are segregated to the wazoo and they don't listen to me. And I'm like, do you look at the boroughs of Boston? Like, it's literally segregated by skin color. I'm currently with the white college students. Sometimes you have some Asian college students. When I lived in Brighton, you had some Dominicans and white people. Dorchester is like Asian and Black. East Boston is literally where people tell you to go to get Spanish food. Like, it's segregated. And like, I don't know. Boston is still a place that uses busing for their school district, though, for like the Boston public schools. They'll bus students from like Dorchester to Brighton, all the things, because property tax is a thing, and it's very different renting in one place than another. Like your rent can fluctuate from $700 to $5,000 for the same square footage, depending on what neighborhood you're in.
What is that, Manhattan?
We're
What's
not.
the most
We have
expensive?
a better dollar per square footage than Manhattan, but it's a similar sort of sticker shock.
Where is? I'm trying to think of this. Really, it was a really cute. Where's Boylston? What neighborhood is that in?
Which one? Sorry.
Boylston Street.
Boylston Street. That's a long street. It's Back Bay is part of it. So
I'm just trying to think. I don't know. I went to some shops on that street.
Oh yeah, you know, you were in Back Bay and just downtown. That's more like the city. That's like the shopping center. That's where it's really expensive. It has the brownstones.
Yes. Thanks for joining. I'm sorry we're long-winded. Yeah, the brown. Those are cute.
The brownstones are also in the south end. So yeah, Boylston and Newberry Street are like near Copley, which is like has the fancy library and the Prudential Center.
I've been in.
So that's Back Bay and near Fenway. It's also in the neighborhood sometimes called Fenway.
My favorite quote in this whole book was white supremacy is and has always been a pyramid scheme. And
it's a good line.
Yes. But yeah, this one just talked a lot about those issues. And I think this one also talks about like the housing
especially with the GI Bill and how these systems were set up to help stabilize white men. And
yeah. Oh yeah. It talks about Chicago too and the riots. The riots there.
It's still very segregated in Cleveland. Yeah. I know that growing up.
In so many, I feel like every major city really is segregated.
It's not good.
Oh, in between 1910 and 1930, the Black population of Chicago grew by 600%. Oof.
I think so. The first time I learned about the Great Migration, I kid you not, was Toni Morrison's The Bluest Eye, because it talks about that a fair bit because of how her family came to Ohio. Because I mean, Toni Morrison herself's from Lorain, Ohio. But yeah.
Ooh, ow. Sorry. It's funny because when I was growing up, for some reason, I don't know, it was just like a thought that only Black people only lived in the South. And then I was like, there's Black people in different places? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm sorry. I feel like, look at all this book to go. I mean, we don't have to go through every single chapter. If you had any other parts that stood out to you.
I like the football chapter. I don't know if that's up next.
Play the fear. Ooh, I wrote that wrong. Hide.
Well, and also in the comments, if you have something that we haven't talked about yet, feel free. We'll hop around.
Yes. We talked about this the other day, but I got really annoyed with the part about with Clinton and Lainey. Did we say?
Oh yeah, that's in the female section, the one with the powerful women, the glass cliff.
Yes, and with is that the same one with talking about 9 to 5 with Dolly?
Yeah, and it talks about the trio in Congress.
Oh yeah, Fire the Women. Okay, wait, there are two different ones. So this one, Fire the Women, with the 3 in Congress and 9 to 5, but the one with Lainey is in Socialists and Quota Queens, which hate so much. But I did find it interesting because I didn't know that Shirley Chisholm had run for president. And so she was actually the first Black person to organize a presidential campaign. And I was like, oh, look at that. But of course, they tried to say it was Jesse.
Yep.
Was it Jesse or Al? Jesse Jackson?
I don't remember right now.
Yes, Jesse Jackson ran for president in 1984.
That was a good chapter.
Yeah, about the glass cliff where all the women, the companies that are like basically setting them up to fail, but they're like, here, see what happens when we put a woman in power?
Which is like the plot of a pretty average book. Like how many books or movies are this company's going to fail? Here's the underdog to come save the day. Just in the book they do.
Yeah. Yes. I bet you there's one out there. I need to read more about Shirley.
Didn't they say in this book that until recently there was only one biography? Like, I don't know. I thought that was in this book that she mentioned how few biographies there were about her.
Well, that's a damn shame.
Yeah. And yeah, but I really liked the football chapter because that had the line where this one man for the Redskins was the fantastic racist.
Oh, yeah.
That was.
Oh, now they're what, the Commodores or something? Didn't they just recently change their name?
Yeah, they did. I think they should have stick to the Washington football team. Washington football team name, Commanders, Commodore. It's the Commanders.
Yeah, horrible. I don't like it. The Glass Cliff, I hadn't heard of that, but it makes sense. And I like that she admitted, like, yeah, these women weren't perfect, and they admitted themselves that maybe they didn't always make the best business decisions, but setting them up, like, with the Reddit, like, get double the users, what was like more like get them millions of users like within a year or something.
And they didn't even like make it until recently or something like that. Like
it took
having
them
really like not only giving them bad expectations, but then also how white people in management positions suddenly don't work as well with you because of this whole internalized misogyny and racism.
Once you're in that position, they're not doing their part or not helping, make it a smooth transition. And then she was talking about like, if you maybe wore suits or your voice was deeper, or you were aggressive, then it's like, oh, you're being like a man. But if you're more feminine and like soft spoken, it's like, oh, well, you're still not strong enough to do this position, so you can't win. They're like, nope. You're just not the right person for the job. Sorry.
Oh yeah, and then recently the football has been showing. Well, it's not surprising that they are corrupt and racist, but they accidentally the tweets were shown, not the tweets, the messages.
A mess. Oh my God.
When I was talking to Ryan the other day, and I don't know if this book made me think of it or not, it's like most corporations, companies, big things, they have CEOs, they have boardrooms, you don't own a business usually, or it's not talked about like the person who owns a business very often. But with football and baseball and basketball, it's always about owners. And it's really weird because the thing they own is a group of people. Like, you know what I mean? Like down to everyone who sat there, but yeah.
Yeah. Apply for that job. Because, I was saying that after the Trump presidency, I'm like, well, what qualifications does he have? But being not, he's technically wealthy, but also broke because he owes everybody money. So like, what? So yeah, that was really interesting. It is, and the way, like, especially in college, just the percentage of people that are going to make it to pro is so small, and them not wanting to get paid, and just the level of violence in football and how many players are having, what are they? The CTE and having to sue and not, some of them trying to dismiss their cases. I'm like, do you know
there is no reason for how much money college football and basketball make for those students to not get coin. There's no reason other than there's none. There's
greed
no reason
that they want to keep it up here. I saw a tweet and it was like, I don't know what college, but it was a classroom and it looked bad, like stuff from the ceiling, old desk, whatever. And then it had their like football locker room, which was brand new, state of the art. It's just so ridiculous how it's like, so all of this money, and it brings in all this money and advertisers and all of these things. And so you're telling me this limited amount, the coach who is, okay, I guess he played back in the day and he has the knowledge, but he's over here safe on the sideline, and the people out here playing the game don't get anything.
Well, I think part of it is like for these sports, particularly for some reason, like other sports have different pipelines, but for basketball and football, the stage between high school and them is college. You have to go through that unless you are phenomenal. But even, I think actually for both now, you have to go to college for at least a year or 3 years, depending on the sport. And I'm like, this should just be the minor league. Like that's what this is, but it's just not, because now it's tied into school money stuff and it's a mess. But we're using this essentially as like a training ground.
Yeah. But I'm like, okay, it'd be different if they were just playing and it was, just the students who came there and it wasn't. But you have billion-dollar brands. You have merchandise with these student players' names on them, huge advertising deals.
And they get in so much trouble when they just like sell off some of their stuff to get a tattoo.
I'm like, well, you're getting this. And I'm like, what these stipends and stuff, people have lives, okay? They don't just get like, they have bills, or some people come from places where they probably are sending money back home. Like,
Also, I'm sorry, getting your tuition paid off when you don't have a chance to actually use that and go to school, because they train so much. Like they have to put the sport first. That's why they're there. They're being paid in college tuition to be a football player or a basketball player. And I once was talking to someone, and they're like, well, they still can get a degree. And I'm like, do you think they could have actually gotten the same degree that you or I got with the time that they had? And the type of degree matters to an extent. Like we have placed value on certain degrees over others. Now, that's a different debate, but we have done it. Like, not all bachelors are the same.
Mess. But, and it's just, we've seen a lot of things in the last couple of years with some people, unfortunately, with suicide and other things where, murder, suicide from these brain injuries. But I mean, it's so... what do you, I literally, and I know it's an illegal move, but there's still just all of that weight and all of,
They still don't give so I think there were some Pro Bowlers, people who are famous that still have their merchandise sold. I think Jim Brown and them being we are still suing and still trying to get medical rights because we still have medical bills now based off things back then because we didn't know about CTA. And it's kind of a similar thing to you're letting an 18-year-old get these loans. You're letting an 18-year-old know the risks and decide for them.
18.
I'm sorry, at 18, do they really know what it's going to be like to have early onset dementia when they're 50? Do they know?
The right, they're I'm good at this thing. It's a sport. I'm a dude. Yeah, I'm going to play football.
This is the thing that makes me feel good. And if you're a minority, this is the one thing that the country has decided you're allowed to do and not be mad at you for it.
It is, And the hall,
those are the people
they have to fight for that is insane. And use all the money that
they make so much money. It's literally just greedy. It's literally just it's
not oh darn, we have to ration. No, it's just you little people up here, Roger Goodell or whoever, are no, we must have all of the money. And it's okay, cool.
They don't even pay for their stadiums. They don't even cities have to go bankrupt.
Once I learned that, I was that doesn't make you have millions of dollars and it's coming from public funds in cities that have terrible roads and bad
and owners can remove people remove their teams from the cities whenever they want. So even if you give them that stadium, they might not stay. No, I mean, it's all broken. That said, I still watch sports. And I know the Olympics are broken and I'm still watching the Olympics.
I used to be way more into sports and then I just everything take it way too seriously to heart, so it would stress me out, and so I have distanced myself. But it just doesn't make any sense to me. I think they're fun and whatever, but it's just asinine. Even aside, obviously these people need the health protection and stuff, but the amount of money, I'm sorry, you're talented, but all sports, the amount of money they make is absurd. No, it's just
what we put value on.
I don't think anyone, I'm sorry, LeBron, Thomas Brady, none of you are worth that much money. I do not think so. When you have other people, we're not going to get in that discussion, but that's just how I feel. It makes me mad. So sorry about that. But that was, the football.
Well, it's so interesting, this chapter, because that football at some point went through its racist spree of not hiring Black players because we did that with all of sports. That's not. So we have many sports movies about integration of sports. Remember the Titans has already been mentioned in this video.
Yes.
But how stubborn some people were about it to the detriment of winning.
And then of course Colin Kaepernick, and I still
I really wish the Browns had picked him up. We really were not good. We could have used a quarterback. We could have used one. He was right there.
So it's so weird. I can't remember the exact place I read this, so don't quote me, but because they've made, I can't remember. So how they have the military people out there with the flag for every game, and then they have the Pledge of Allegiance or something. And I can't remember what someone said. It was something I think they that's not supposed to be like that, or like they pay to be. It's some weird thing. Like why is that a requirement at the beginning of a sporting event? I can't not. I'm gonna have to go find like the little nugget of knowledge.
Like how we all sing the Star Spangled
Banner.
Banner.
And like the flag thing, because that was their whole thing. He's disrespecting the flag. It's a football game. What?
Well, it reminds me of when we were reading Braiding Sweetgrass, and they talked about how instead of standing for the national anthem, there's like the giving thing. And like ironically, I watched the Canadian football game. Their Super Bowl happened at some point, and they actually did have Indigenous people there, because I think one of the teams was Indigenous, and like they actually did do that before the game. Like that. It was
yes,
they had both
money for it. It's gross.
Ugh.
Why are you wasting that money on that? What does that do? Nothing.
Yeah. I do like, though, the Star Spangled Banner. I think when someone sings it well, like Brandy sang it recently, she did a great job.
My favorite will always be Whitney.
I mean, sure, but we don't have her. So
I know, but I did see Brandy's outfit. It looked like a Whitney homage.
I'm still always...
there it is. All of this stuff. Especially when they talk
especially
about...
at the Olympics, you're not supposed to wear it. Like, they do, but like that's illegal.
Or I think you're not even supposed to like make clothes or like sit on the flag and stuff like this. And they do it all the time. There's all these misuses of the flag, but there's somebody not stand for it. And they're like, oh, how dare you?
No, we're very nationalistic. And I think it's by design. And I've grown to like it less and less as I've gotten older.
America is... I stopped saying 8th grade, and boy, did my teacher hate me. She was like, my husband is not over in there for you to not be standing for this. And I was like, you can't make me stand up.
We actually stopped after 6th grade. Like, they didn't make us anymore, which is nice.
Did I tell you, we went to see Spider-Man here on base, and I had never been to a Navy movie theater, and they made us stand, and they played the Pledge of Allegiance. I was like, this is so ghetto. What is this, honey?
It's so interesting.
Oh my God. Now that is a school.
All right. Well, at least Canada's kind of also like subliminally propagandizing their nationality. We're not alone.
You're just like,
I don't know. I don't get it, but like I like it for when it's like becomes like a thing. So like for Bruins games, we have this dude who used to work at the bar, and no one could sing it one day, so he did, and how he's just like our big opera singer who sings our Pledge of Allegiance.
The military budget.
Oh yeah, we have military propaganda in this book. Remember, that was a section about like when the women were going to work during the World War II, and then they had to kick them out of their jobs. There was a whole propaganda.
They're like, oh, so I know you've been working and keeping the country going, but gotta go. The men
and
are back.
The way that they so strategically were like, but we have to pick the white middle class women because we need them to leave. Because this is how we solve our problem of capitalism. Dude, like Old Navy would not have a job if they couldn't put the flag on everything.
Oh my God. Were you a person if you did not have your 4th of July Old Navy t-shirt on with a matching flip-flop for $1?
I know, right? Like that 4th of July Old Navy is a special place.
Oh, skipping to the office. Did you call me?
Oh, did my kid choose to do something that made you uncomfy?
Oh, 4th of July B-Day. Well, it's just your birthday. Like, what else happens that day? I don't know. Never heard of her. Okay, so it's almost 2 hours. So to round this out with the conclusion, which Angela and I discussed the other day, and I'm going to have to bring up the person that I mentioned the other day when I realized they were the epitome of this book. Can white manhood be more than this? What do y'all think? Is there hope? Is there hope? I think not.
I think there's hope for an individual, but as a group of people, I'm unsure.
No, because obviously there's individual white men who, I mean, if they're doing it on their own, props. I feel like more of them have partners who are probably like, hey, we need to learn and grow. Every time I'm reading a book or something, I'm like, Andrew, hey, listen here. I want you to be better. So individual, yes. But when I look at the success of someone like the mediocre but I mean beyond. Actually, he's lower than mediocre, ugly white man Joe Rogan and his success. I don't know if there's hope. Can there be?
And I mean, and I feel bad because, like she says in the conclusion, like this state is not mentally healthy for men as well. Like the need to aspire to a thing that you're purposefully not meant to aspire to, because by design, the system is meant to make you dream, but not make you succeed. You're not supposed to be successful. If every white man was as successful as they are trained to think they are being, the economy would collapse. Like that's just not.
Just the entire thing, especially well, of course, white men, and even if you're not at the top, you're still above women and people of color. But our whole system is on this American dream and keep working, because you're like, well, if you just work your life away, you don't have time to sit down and realize how screwed this system is. And I'm not, I can't do it no more. I mean, I'm not, but the system is trash. It's very much still very much tied to Christianity and obviously the patriarchy. It is very much you do this and you go to school and you work and you get married and you have children, and how are you gonna support those children? We don't care, but you need to go back to work and But if you're not doing,
it's like our system pretends that if you work hard, you'll get what you deserve. And that's just not fact. That's
what is that? True. Meritocracy or something?
Yeah, no, we live in a system of mediocrity, not meritocracy. I'm almost positive that line had to be in this book somewhere. And if it wasn't, we have missed an opportunity.
Yes, it definitely is money in America that.
Well, because money allows you to be comfortable. Because like I don't need to make a bunch of money, but I want to be able to afford the space that I want to live in. Like I want to be able to have a comfortably sized place to live and to occasionally go on vacation and to not have to budget and be stressed about that financially. I think that's what most people want.
I think seriously, because some people, I mean, it's not me, but some people don't like, traveling far, or some people like the routine of a normal 9 to 5 or whatever, don't hate their jobs, but it's like they have to work so much just to get by. So if every job was paying more than a living wage, where you could work and not be working overtime, have time to enjoy the things that you're working to pay for, so you can enjoy your home and your family and go on a vacation, have actual sick days that are not coming out of your vacation, having a bad mental health day, and you can actually focus on that. You can afford therapy, you can afford medication. The entire system is just like, well, we want you run down and broken, but also working your butt off so you can't focus on all of these ways this system was made to fail all of you. And I hate it.
They want us desperate. They really just want people to be desperate and always craving more. They don't want contentment. Contentment does not work with, I mean, we know that with algorithms. Algorithms don't want people to be happy. No. That's not what makes people stay on an app.
Work. They want
workaholics who are constant consumers, who are anxious all of the time.
Capitalism is the devil, but they're like, that's the system, and you have to, in order to be part of this machine, yes, you must always be working for something else. You never have enough. And it's obviously by design, because they're like, well, if we pay people more, the prices are going up anyway. What do you mean? Like the prices are going up?
It's a lie. I don't think that's true. I don't have an economy major or anything like economics. I don't know it, but I literally don't think it's true.
No, it's not. One, money is fake. But it's like, well, minimum wage has been this for how long? And rent has, I mean, in just these cities, even, rent costs, housing costs. Wow. Housing cost. And it's like, I think someone said if you factored in for inflation, minimum wage should be like $20, $25.
Yeah, I mean, that's about what it is in Boston, I think. At least since there's been the labor shortage, because all the posters.
I can't remember when it was. Sometime it was saying like almost in every major city, people who just like had a job with minimum wage, they couldn't afford just like a 1-bedroom apartment or something. It's always they don't. Why can't we
also
just
1-bedroom apartments are really expensive.
Mhm.
But so something I thought about, I think earlier this week, is like, I don't like being a graduate student, but it provides flexibility and also provides pretty good health insurance that I know I'm about to lose in like 5 months, and it makes me sad. But like, I had a symptom that wasn't a big deal, but because I knew I'd pay $0, I just went to the doctor anyways. And the
Mhm.
minute I have to like pay for my own health, I have to be like, well, is this a bad enough symptom to go see a
Yep.
doctor? And why are
But
these questions one have to ask?
they'll blame that on you, like, oh well, you should have been doing the preventative care. How do people do that when you can't afford it? When their insurance premiums, I've seen those, and where people have to end up in the ER because they couldn't do all these things. It's just like, I am not an econ political policy person major, but this is common sense. I like this comment. Scarcity and struggle is there to erode solidarity, because solidarity is the one thing that can change things. And
Amen.
America's so big that it's hard to
I mean,
come
even
together. And of course,
individual towns don't
yeah,
have a cohesive
yeah.
feeling.
And
Like
you
we
have
were ragging on sports, but sports are the few things that people come
bring
around.
people together. But you have those people, and it's honestly a lot of white people. And I think this was in other books I've read too, where they've done that successfully, where they're like, even if you're poor and white, and all of these changes that all these other people want would help you, but remember, you may be poor and white, but at least you ain't poor and black. And they're like, well, I'm one step above you, I don't need help, I just pull myself up by my bootstraps. And it's just like,
It's like this
nothing's
weird fake
trickling
internal
down,
validation.
everything sucks, I hate it here.
Yeah.
So, wow, that was mediocre. I will say the book wasn't mediocre, and neither was this discussion. This is great. I'm sorry if your blood pressure is high. Please drink some water.
I got my Lion King water glass.
I need to listen to the Circle of Life now. It's
I'm
very
so
ghetto
sorry.
here. But yes, the downside is, what do we do now? We're at the end of the book. I don't really think in general there's hope for the white man or this system, not in my lifetime. So I don't know what to do next. Besides be mad and retweet things I see on Twitter. I don't know.
I think like what I've been like thinking lately, and I don't know if I'll actually ever come through with it, but like I'm gonna move soon and hopefully find like my settled spot, because I want to settle somewhere. And like I'm hoping to like somehow just become really involved in my community in some way, because I feel like that's a thing I've just been noticing in a lot of nonfiction and fiction, is like some of it is because people aren't connected, and it's the isolation that allows for whatever the commenter said, it allowed for things to fester, and you couldn't solve things because everyone's just individually miserable.
Yes.
So I don't know.
I mean, that's definitely, I feel like that's something that came up in Braiding Sweetgrass too, is something small that you could do.
I want to see tangible things that I can do, like, yes. Even if it's not about like fixing a problem, but like still like the idea that communities don't like feel like those small towns you read in a fantasy book, like I want those village vibes.
Or I just read a romance, and it was like a small fishing town, and I was like, oh, this is just so, everyone knows or this person comes over here to help, and she would help the old man go sit and read his newspaper, and I was just like, this is so cute.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
so, I mean, that's my personal like attempt at hope.
Thanks everyone for joining. This was so good. I feel I got a little catharsis.
I'm gonna go play with my yarn.
But so in March, so not February, but March, we'll be reading Hood Feminism, and I'll post on Instagram and in the Discord. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how these two.
And in March, we'll in theory vote on a theme for June. June? I don't know. Something. A month. The next one. May. That's the one I was missing.
I have to do that every time. I'm like, But thanks everyone for joining. I hope you have a great evening, day.
It's afternoon in the East Coast, so
afternoon, evening. Thanks for joining.